Single mom rescues drowning billionaire, but when he searches, what he finds will shock you. The waves crashed violently against the rocky shore. Just like Sarah's heart raced in her chest. It was a perfect Saturday afternoon. The sun was shining, and for a moment, everything felt just right. But that was before the chaos erupted. A piercing scream cut through the laughter of children playing nearby. "Help! He's in trouble!" A voice shrieked from the water. Without a second thought, Sarah dropped everything: a half-finished sandwich, her sunglasses, even her book. She dove into the icy surf, the water wrapping around her like a vice. Her mind raced as she fought against the pull of the ocean's current. How did a day at the beach turn into a rescue mission? The scene unfolded in dizzying sharpness, the salty spray stinging her eyes as she focused on the figure struggling just beyond the foamy waves. A man in a crisp white shirt, soaked and flailing, reached for air, his face a twisted mask of panic. A wave crashed over him, and just like that he disappeared. No! Panic surged through her veins, a fire igniting her muscles as she pushed harder, kicking instinctively. Each stroke took every ounce of her energy, yet Sarah could see him re-emerge, gasping for breath. She lunged forward, her hand stretching toward him. Desperation clawed at her throat, a lump the size of a fist. Time seemed to stretch, the world around her fading into muffled sounds of distant shouting and laughter. Then she felt the cold grip of his wrist as she finally caught him. He was heavier than he looked, a dead weight pulling her down, but she wouldn't let go. Every ounce of strength surged through her as she fought to keep both of them afloat. The adrenaline screamed in her ears, drowning out everything else. Gradually, they broke through the surface and she could finally breathe. With a fierce determination, she dragged him back to the shore, her lungs burning as the sand finally came into view. She collapsed, both of them spluttering and gasping, choked breaths mingling with the salty air. The crowd around them burst into applause, but Sarah barely noticed. Was he okay? As she looked into his eyes, she noticed something unusual: fear mixed with gratitude, a glimmer of something darker lurking beneath the surface. The man was no ordinary beachgoer. Something about him felt profoundly off, like a secret weighed heavily upon his heart. The air crackled with unspoken tension, a question hanging between them. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As her heart rate began to slow, the man twisted on the sand, his expression morphing from vulnerability to something guarded and calculative. "Thank you," he rasped, but his eyes flickered, hinting at an unfathomable depth. Then, in a moment as fleeting as a sea breeze, something passed between them, an unshakable connection. Yet, a storm brewed behind those darkened irises, a hint that all was not as it seemed. She watched as he scanned the crowd slowly, a flicker of realization dawning on him. What was he searching for? And why did it feel as if the waves were not the only thing hiding secrets in this seaside town? The questions rippled through her like the tide, her back prickling with a sudden chill. Whatever was to come next, it felt like just the beginning. The air thickened with tension as the crowd cheered, their voices a distant echo in Sarah's ears. She felt the heat of the sun on her back but couldn't shake the chill of uncertainty creeping up her spine. The man was stirring beside her, his breath coming in labored gasps. She caught a flicker of recognition in his eyes, deep and shadowed, something that sent a shiver through her. Who was he really? "What's your name?" she asked, her voice firm despite the uncertainty twisting in her gut. "Blake," he replied, but his voice trailed off, as if he was caught on a fragile thread of thought. His gaze swept back to the water, the calm waves now seeming deceptively serene. Was he looking for someone? The light glinting off his golden watch caught her eye, sending a flash of reality through her. This was no ordinary man, he had wealth etched into every fiber of his being. Blake sat up, fingers digging into the sand as he steadied himself. "I need to find my daughter." Panic gripped his features, fear morphing into desperation. Her heart sank. How could a child be lost in those depths? What? You have a daughter? Sarah asked, heart racing. She couldn't tell if she was more confused or terrified. Yes, she was right here. He shot to his feet, staggering slightly as he scanned the crowd, desperation lighting a fire in his eyes. The laughter and shouting of children seemed more haunting than joyful now. Sarah's insides twisted. Was there danger lurking? Where did you last see her? She urged, fighting against the rising swell of dread. Right here playing, he said, voice unraveling with disbelief. She's never this far away. Before she could respond, he sprinted down the beach, his stark figure moving through the clumps of sunbathers and children. Sarah jumped up, her instincts kicking in. She was not going to let him face this alone. The laughter of children rang out, momentarily soothing her nerves, but it faded into haunting echoes as she rushed after him. She pushed through the throng of people, scanning the water while her heart flared with fear for a child she had never met. Blake! She shouted, desperation piercing her voice when she caught up to him. He was standing at the edge of the water, fists clenched tightly. Clara! He yelled, his voice breaking as it mingled with the crashing surf. The waves surged rhythmically, each ebb a mocking reminder of how quickly life could shatter. Sarah could see the children nearby, blissfully unaware of the turmoil, laughing and splashing oblivious. But where was his daughter? Is she around here? She asked, trying to maintain composure, but her chest felt tight, every nerve screaming. She's a little girl. Just 7. She couldn't have gone under. His voice trembled, the vulnerability seeping through, raw and exposed. Blake! A voice erupted from the crowd. A woman, breathless and frantic, burst forward. Her panic-stricken face recognized Blake instantly. Where is she? Did you find Clara? Fear twisted in the air, and Sarah felt the fabric of the moment tear apart as they fell into chaos. Could they be facing something worse, a darker tide pulling at their day? Where is she? The woman's voice wavered, and Sarah could hardly breathe. Just then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a shadow beneath the water's surface, something drifting. Was it a mirage or the flicker of a tiny hand, desperately reaching for the sky? Her heart thundered. This was more than a rescue. This was a race against time. What lay beneath those waves was a question far more profound than they realized. Would she dare plunge back into the depths? Stay here, she yelled, turning toward the water, ready to dive back into chaos as the realization struck her the real fight had only just begun. The water roared as Sarah sprinted toward the edge, her heart hammering against her ribs. Every ounce of hesitation vanished. Clara needed help. Blake's anguished face faded behind her as she waded into the surf, each wave crashing against her legs, pulling her deeper into the chaos. Flashes of sunlight danced on the water's surface, but they were cold comforts. She peered into the murky depths, searching for the ghostly outline she thought she'd seen. Clara! She called, her voice slicing through the cacophony of the beachgoers. The air was alive with laughter and shouts, but they felt miles away, distant and muted. As she ducked her head beneath the surface, the world transformed. The sunlight shimmered, casting an otherworldly glow. Panic surged. Was it too late? Breathing deeply, she pushed down through the salt water, eyes straining to catch any sign of the missing girl. The ocean pulled at her like a fierce undertow, but she fought against it, limbs thrashing, determined. Her lungs began to scream for air, but Sarah forced herself to focus, heart pounding with every desperate movement. In the swirling depths, she caught sight of something, a shadow, small and fragile. Clara! Her voice rang with urgency, but the water swallowed her words. Desperation fueled her, and she propelled herself faster, closing the distance. But as she reached for the shadow, it darted just out of reach, slipping away into the cold abyss below. Every fiber of Sarah's being urged her to give in to fear, to float back to the surface, but the thought of Blake's frantic eyes fueled her resolve. She was not backing down. Not now. Finally, she grasped a small arm, the delicate shoulder between her fingers sending a shock straight through her. Clara! With a surge of adrenaline, Sarah unlocked her grip and pulled the girl upwards with every ounce of strength she had left. They breached the surface together, Clara's tiny body limp and unresponsive. The world came crashing back as Sarah gasped for air, her heart racing through her chest like a warning siren. Blake! she shouted, helpless panic flooding her voice. I found her. But as Sarah struggled to keep them both afloat, she could feel Clara slipping from her grasp. The girl bobbed in and out of consciousness, pale skin glistening in the sunlight. She could hear the scuffle of feet frantically rushing toward them, felt a presence behind her, a shadow against the vibrant day. Blake's cry pierced through the noise as he reached down, pulling Clara from her arms. Clara! He roared, voice cracking like thunder. The moment he held her close, Sarah almost felt dizzy with relief. But it was fleeting. The girl lay slack, breath shallow. The sounds around them morphed into a wild collage of shouts as people began to gather, and panic surged through the crowd like an electric current. Someone called for an ambulance, but all Sarah could think was, did she get there in time? Is she okay? Blake's voice trembled, filled with raw fear, his eyes searching Sarah's desperately. I don't know. The air thickened again, a weight of uncertainty hanging heavy. Then, as if the universe was mocking them, Clara's eyelids fluttered open, revealing deep blue irises filled with confusion. But what came next would send shockwaves through every soul on the beach. Clara looked right past her father, locking eyes with Sarah. Help me find Mommy, the little girl whispered. A word so innocent yet so loaded that it suspended time itself. Sarah's stomach dropped. Mommy? She echoed, footsteps echoing in her mind. A new panic gripped her, more profound than before. Blake's expression morphed from relief to confusion. What do you mean, Clara? He demanded, anxiety lacing his tone. I found her in the water. Clara's voice trailed off, dark pools of depth in her gaze, as if she held a secret that could unravel everything. Sarah's heart ached. Did Clara know something they didn't? Suddenly everything spiraled. The crowd hushed, their breath collectively held. What truth lay beneath the waves? What other secrets was Clara hiding? And why, oh why, did it feel like this was just the beginning? The crowd swirled around them, faces tense, eyes wide. The mood shifted from panic to incredulity, whispers circling like hungry vultures. Everyone strained to hear what was happening, to grasp the gravity of Clara's words. Mommy? Blake's voice shook, the word hanging between them like a fragile glass ornament. What do you mean? There's no one here. But Clara stared at Sarah, the connection between them electric and unnerving. She was there, under the waves. A chill shot down Sarah's spine. What could the little girl mean? She swallowed hard, glancing at Blake, who looked ready to explode with frustration. Clara, honey, focus. What did you see? He knelt beside her, desperate. I saw her. But she was sad, Clara murmured, drifting back into a daze. She was calling for me. A collective gasp ran through the gathering crowd. Someone at the back shouted, call the lifeguards. Another said, we need to search the water again. Sarah felt the weight of the situation press heavily on her. Just moments ago, she had fought to save Clara's life. And now they were thrust into this strange, surreal mystery. The girl had seen something unimaginable, and what's worse, it seemed to be real. Blake tightened his grip around Clara, looking like a lion ready to roar, eyes blazing with a mix of fear and protective rage. What do you remember, Clara? Where was she? Sarah's heart raced as she processed the memories. The ocean had been restless, foaming with strange, shadowy shapes. But was there a truth buried deep in the shifting tides? Clara's blue eyes clouded over. She was lost. Just like me. The lifeguards arrived, and the bustling crowd partook in urgent chatter. Sarah backed away, compelled to exit the scene but tethered by an invisible force. She glanced toward the water, the waves continuing their dance, unrelenting and mysterious. Ma'am, one of the lifeguards approached, peering curiously at Clara. Do you know exactly where she was? Blake shook his head, his jaw set firmly. I don't care about where she is. My daughter needs help. The guard, undeterred, surveyed the crowd. All right, we need people to clear the way. We'll start a search. Search? Sarah's voice cracked. For who? If she's in the water, she won. Sarah. Clara broke through, her small voice commanding attention. She's not in the water. She's on the beach. Every heartbeat seemed to synchronize with the tension hanging in the air. Sarah's mind raced. Was this a child's imagination or a deeper truth? On the beach. Blake's voice dropped, disbelief edging out the panic. Clara, what do you mean? I saw her feet. She was animated now, swinging her arms like a windmill, eliciting hushed murmurs from the crowd. She was looking for me. The implication sent shockwaves through Sarah. Were they searching for someone real? Or was this a fractured story spun from a child's need for rescue? They all stood there, frozen in that moment, the weight of Clara's revelation thickening the air around them. Could someone really be lost at the hands of the ocean and now searching for Clara? Blake's eyes flashed with determination, the facade of calmness cracking. We need to find her. Clara, can you show us? But before Clara could respond, the atmosphere shifted again. A scream erupted from farther down the beach, shrill and piercing, sending a rush of panic through the gathered souls. Help! Someone's drowning. As one they turned toward the newly forming chaos, Sarah's heart racing. Another plea for help echoed through the air, igniting an urgent fire inside her. Clara, she whispered, fear knotting her stomach. What are we going to find today? Little did they all know that dread was only the tip of an iceberg that threatened to capsize everything they thought they knew. The crowd moved like a wave pushed by a strong wind, chaotic and frenzied. Sarah could feel the collective fear hanging thick in the air, clinging to her skin. She ran alongside Blake, who had scooped Clara up in his arms. Which way, Clara? He shouted, urgency lacing his tone. The little girl's small frame shook, but her eyes remained clear, focused on something that none of the adults could see. There. Clara pointed towards a cluster of people gathered at the shoreline. A woman's scream reverberated again, sharp and full of desperation. Stay back! A lifeguard yelled, pushing through the throng as he sprinted into the surf, his whistle blaring. I need help. A child's in trouble. Sarah's heart raced, matching the pounding in her ears. Fear clawed at her throat. Was it the child Clara saw? A lost little girl struggling against the waves? She glanced at Blake, who seemed to be channeling raw energy into the air. Clara's small voice cut through the chaos. Mommy, I can help. She squirmed in Blake's arms, determination replacing the initial shock. Clara, no. Blake's grip tightened, his panic manifesting in a fierce stare. You don't understand what's happening here. I know. Clara insisted, her voice rising. I can see her. I can help her find her way back. The little girl's expression changed, a flicker of something profound washing over her face. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted. The ocean, which had felt like an enemy moments before, seemed to pulse with a rhythm of its own. Clara, what do you see? Sarah asked, desperation in her tone. The crowd fell silent, eyes glued to the girl. She sat and alone. Clara breathed, her small hands reaching out as if connecting to a spirit unseen. She doesn't know where to go. What if Sarah trailed off, fear bubbling up again. What could they possibly be facing? Another lifeguard joined the one already bravely battling the waves, both diving beneath the foamy surface. Time stretched in unbearable silence as everyone leaned forward, waiting, and then, an arm broke through the swell, flailing frantic. Got her! One of the lifeguards shouted, dragging a limp figure toward the beach. The searchlights from the lifeguards' buoys illuminated the water, casting an eerie glow on the chaos. Blake pushed past people, oblivious to their gasps and wide eyes. He slipped through the throng, following the lifeguards. Sarah followed, her heart pounding against her chest as they drew closer. Sarah caught a glimpse of the girl being pulled from the water, a child, drenched and ghostly pale. Sarah's stomach twisted, recognition hitting her hard. Clara must have sensed more than just sorrow. Stay with me, honey. You're okay, you're gonna be alright. The lifeguard was shouting as he cradled the girl against his chest. But Sarah could see the stillness in the child's eyes. She was not moving, not breathing. A deep fear settled into the pit of Sarah's stomach, icy and persistent. Clara. Sarah called, panic overtaking her thoughts. What's happening? Clara's expression shifted suddenly, excitement blooming as she gasped. She's here. The thrumming in the air seemed to pulse as Clara's gaze turned back toward the waves, locking onto something invisible. Where? Sarah's lungs felt tight, the weight of a mother's worst nightmare looming. Clara, what do you see? A revelation flickered behind the girl's blue eyes, a knowing too ancient for her small frame. She's not alone, there's someone with her. The crowd gasped, confusion swirling in their ranks, but Clara's voice broke through steadily. She wants to tell us something. A bone-chilling scream ripped through the night, echoing through the air once more, this time profoundly darker, enveloping them all in dread. What could that mean? Sarah thought, her body trembling. It felt as if the ocean itself held a secret that was about to surface, and they were just on the brink of uncovering something unspeakable. As the waves crashed behind them, the blurry line between reality and something far more terrifying trembled, teasing them all with a revelation not yet unveiled. What truths were buried beneath the surface? What would they discover as they chased the shadows of the past? The air was thick with tension, the crowd still hushed, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. Clara's voice pierced through the weighty silence, filling the gaps where dread had taken root. She's calling for help. The little girl's hands remained outstretched, trembling but resolute. Blake crouched down beside Clara, his expression a chaotic blend of anger and desperation. "We need to get out of here," he urged Sarah, a spark of panic glinting in his eyes. It was clear he wanted to shield Clara from whatever darkness was unraveling around them. "No," Clara protested, eyes brimming with tears that sparkled like fallen stars. "We can't leave her. She needs us." Sarah's heart raced as she felt the pull between her instinct to protect her daughter and the urgent call for help emanating from Clara. "What do you mean, Clara? Who needs help?" Clara's gaze was unwavering, connecting with something in the depths of the water that was hidden from everyone else. "The girl, she says there are secrets here, Mommy. Secrets we need to find." Before Sarah could respond, another piercing scream echoed from the water, slicing through the night like a knife. It wasn't the same scream as before. This one was raw, filled with unbridled terror. The lifeguards struggled to stabilize the body they had retrieved, as the crowd surged forward to witness the tragedy unfolding before them. The girl the lifeguards pulled ashore lay still, her pale skin glistening under the faint light. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat as she caught sight of the girl's delicate features. She looked hauntingly familiar. A chill raced down her spine. Clara seemed to sense her mother's turmoil, her tiny voice whispering with intensity. She's upset 'cause she didn't mean to end up here. There's someone else in the waves, Mommy. Someone hiding." The winds howled, amplifying the eerie sensation hanging in the air. Whispers rustled through the crowd like dry leaves. Some shouted for answers while others prayed in silence. "Stay back," yelled a lifeguard again, ushering the onlookers as he fought against the waves to pull the girl closer to safety. A knot tightened in Sarah's stomach. "What do you mean there's someone hiding?" "I don't know," Clara responded, frustration creeping into her tone. "But she said to tell them the truth." And then, as if on cue, the water began to churn. With a sickening slosh, a figure emerged, a woman in distress, her hair cascading like seaweed around her panicked expression. Another lifeguard dove in, but the tumultuous waves pulled the woman further. The crowd gasped, horror etched on their faces. "Someone's got to help her," Sarah exclaimed, a surge of adrenaline sweeping through her. The specter of fear morphed into urgency and determination. She glanced at Blake, who still held Clara firmly, yet his eyes mirrored her own need to protect and intervene. "Move back," the lifeguard ordered, fighting to navigate the powerful waves. Yet the water wouldn't yield, and screams turned into cries of despair as it became apparent that the second woman was in mortal danger. Then Clara's eyes widened, and she exclaimed, "Look, Mommy! The water, it's mad." Indeed, a huge surge pushed through the shore, and a cold, menacing presence seeped into the air. The girl on the beach lay motionless, her lips barely parting, as if struggling to convey a secret to those around her. The realization struck Sarah like a punch to the gut. Can't just be an accident. There's something more. A sudden wave of darkness surged toward them, and Clara whimpered, recoiling. "Mommy, we have to go. They're angry." Before Sarah could gather her thoughts or voice her next command, the ocean crashed violently against the shore, swallowing the terrified crowd in a roar. Denial mixed with horror as the truth struck home. Something sinister lurked just beneath the surface, beckoning them into its depths, and with that echoing thought, the pit of dread grew, pulling them toward an unknown fate where not everyone would surface again. What really lay beneath the waves, and would they dare to uncover it? The darkness swirled like a living entity, twisting around the frantic crowd. Sarah's heart pounded as she clutched Clara's hand, the weight of the moment crashing down like a wave. Forget the ocean. It was the fear in the eyes of the people that sent chills down her spine. Faces turned toward her, silently pleading for direction that she didn't have. Blake pulled at her sleeve, desperation etched into his features. We can't just stand here. He was right, but moving felt impossible, as if the sand itself had glued her to the ground. Just as she took a shaky breath, a boom echoed from the depths, a roar that made the crowd retreat a step back. Clara squeezed her hand tighter, her little fingers trembling. Mommy, it's angry. We need to find her. Who? Who do we need to find? Sarah's voice was strung tight. She tried to keep calm, but the frantic energy of the crowd crept into her bones, igniting panic. The girl, the one in the waves. She told me to listen. Clara's blue eyes were wide, searching. But there's also something else, something dark that wants to come out. The hairs on Sarah's neck prickled. The night seemed to grow colder, like the very air was weighted with dread. The lifeguards were still fighting to drag the second woman from the water, the waves crashing like a funeral dirge around them. As chaos gripped the beach, the psychic churning of Clara's words lingered. Another wave surged, this one almost like a hand reaching out. It crested high, glistening under the pale moonlight before it slammed down, spraying the onlookers with salty mist. Sarah gasped, instinctively shielding Clara. Mommy! Clara cried out, pointing. There's a light. Over there. Squinting into the inky blackness of the waves, Sarah caught a flicker, a glimmering silhouette bobbing just beneath the surface. Was it just her imagination? The crowd had begun to murmur restlessly, eyes darting to and fro as if the ocean itself were in on some harrowing secret. Blake straightened, suddenly resolute. I'm going in, he announced, cutting through their panic. No. Sarah's protest came out sharper than she intended. You can't. It's too dangerous. The waves were treacherous, their rhythm wild and unpredictable. An icy panic washed over her. What if he didn't resurface? I can't just let her drown, he replied, a fire igniting in his voice. And if Clara says there's someone, we owe it to them to at least try. The conviction in his words made Sarah pause. Clara nodded, her small face pale but determined. Mommy, we have to help her. It's our chance. Clara's voice was unwavering, laced with certainty. It was as if she had tapped into something that lived just beyond their understanding. Okay, Sarah whispered, feeling the resolve choke her. But we do this together. With a shared glance, urgency bloomed between them, and they plunged toward the surf, the cold water engulfing them. Gasping, Sarah fought against the waves, reaching out for the light Clara had seen. Blake was beside her, pulling through the current with fierce determination. Suddenly, just beneath the surface, a shape became clearer, a woman's frantic silhouette, arms thrashing in panic. Sarah's heart raced. The woman's brown hair floated like dark tendrils of seaweed. Without thinking, Sarah pushed deeper into the chaos, her lungs burning, the cold devouring her strength. Grab her! Blake shouted, inadvertently swallowing a mouthful of salt water. The woman's eyes were wide with fear, glimmering with a terrified recognition that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. Just as she reached out, the sea roared again, a menacing growl that felt almost alive. Then a sudden force pulled at Sarah, yanking her away from the woman. Blake vanished in the embrace of the waves, a split second becoming eternity. Desperation surged through Sarah as she struggled against the current, clawing with everything she had. Clara! She screamed, the name lifting to the stars above, but the sound drowned in the vicious cacophony of the ocean. The darkness closed in, and the water was unrelenting. With every ounce of strength, Sarah fought to break free. She could feel the weight of something sinister lurking, a presence shadowing her, waiting, but why? What did it want? Just when she thought she would succumb, heat radiated, an ethereal glow flickered around her. What was happening? A chilling whisper reached her, almost a warning. Before everything turned black, what lay beneath the surface, waiting for its moment to reveal the darkest of truths? The darkness pressed in, thick and suffocating, wrapping itself around Sarah like a shroud. Her senses dulled in the icy grip of the ocean as she flailed, disoriented and terrified. The warmth of the glow offered fleeting comfort, but it flickered as quickly as it appeared, leaving her to grasp at shadows. Where was Blake? Panic seized her heart, an iron vice squeezing tighter. She opened her mouth to call out for him again, but a surge of water filled her lungs, and she fought back a choke. A primal instinct kicked in, driving her to kick her legs and claw for the surface, but the pull of the sea was relentless. Suddenly, the glow returned, brighter this time, illuminating the darkness around her and revealing the silhouette of the woman they had come to save. Sarah's vision cleared momentarily, just enough to see the woman's frantic movements, her eyes wild with fear. A dread so familiar crashed over Sarah. It was a mirror to her own terror. Using every ounce of strength, Sarah swam toward her. They were so close now, Sarah could see the woman's features twist in fear as a wave loomed above them like a giant's hand. "Hold on!" Sarah yelled, her voice battling the roar of the ocean. She reached out for the woman just as the wave crashed down, engulfing them both. Sinking deeper, the weight of water pressed against Sarah's chest, making it impossible to breathe. She gasped, swallowing another lungful of salty despair. This was not supposed to happen, not like this. But Clara was up there watching. She had to survive for her sake. With sheer will, Sarah tore herself away from the haunting embrace of the abyss. Her instincts kicked and she pushed herself upward, feeling a burning determination igniting within her. At last, light broke above her, shimmering through the choppy surface. Gasping, she broke through the water's barrier, instinctively searching for Clara. "Mommy!" Clara's voice pierced the chaos, pure and unfiltered. Sarah turned to see her daughter at the water's edge, eyes wide and full of fear but resolute. The crowd had gathered, their faces blurred by waves and mist, but Clara's plea pulled at her heart. "Clara, stay back!" Sarah shouted, her voice shredded with exhaustion. But Clara only pointed at the water. "The light! It's stronger now!" Squinting again at the ocean, Sarah noticed the haunting glow wrapping around the woman she had tried to save. She was floating, utterly still, and the sight sent a chill streaking through her veins. Blake was nowhere in sight, the realization slicing through her worse than the cold. Where could he be? "Blake!" she screamed, the anguish in her voice echoing emptiness. The rippling waves stilled momentarily, almost as if the ocean itself were holding its breath. But then the current retaliated, yanking Sarah back into its depths as though it had a mind of its own. The waters churned beneath her, and she strived against the pull, desperate to hold on to hope, to stride back towards her daughter. Then in the depths an eerie calm began to settle, and that glow enveloped Sarah, pulling her down into the dark. "You shouldn't be here," a voice whispered, cold and echoing. It reverberated through her like a drum, stealing her breath once more. Who? What was happening? The darkness swirled again, and the peculiar glow wrapped tighter, contrasting with the shadows that seemed to slither up around her. Snippets of thoughts raced. Was it Clara? Was it Blake? But just as the surface seemed to draw her up, a sudden force jerked at her leg, dragging her farther down. Fear seized her heart. Was it looking for someone? She clawed at the water, fighting with everything she had. The seductive pull of the ocean offered no solace. Was it the woman who had beckoned this haunting warmth? And then she saw at the surface painted with rippled silver as voices became muffled cries. The pain in her chest tightened, and a rush surged through her veins. A burning need to break free and understand what fate awaited her. Bright lights pulsed beneath, beckoning her deeper, promising answers. But somewhere amid the fear, she felt a flicker of something more, a pull to uncover what lay beneath, tangled in shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. What would she discover if she let it take her? What dark secrets waited for her just beyond the reach of light? The pull of the ocean felt malevolent now, a creature alive with intent, dragging Sarah deeper into its cold embrace. As she fought, the glow pulsed with an urgency that stoked the embers of her determination. It was beautiful and horrifying, a siren calling her into the abyss. "Let go!" The voice hissed again, sharper this time, cutting through her like ice. Sarah struggled against the currents, muscles screaming, heart racing. She was torn between the instinct to survive and the desperate drive to reach that flicker of light, the woman floating, still as death, caught between two worlds. "Blake!" she gasped, each bubble of air slipping away, tantalizingly out of reach. Panic clawed at her throat. Where could he be? Had he also succumbed to this watery grave? Every frantic stroke began to blur, the light ahead morphing into a swirling whirlpool, beckoning her forward, but also pulling her away from Clara. That thought anchored her like a lifeboat. Clara was safe. She had to get back to her. And then, with a sudden jolt, she was released from the grip of the ocean. The eerie calm enveloping her shattered as she broke through the surface again. Light flooded her senses. Every gasp of air filled her lungs with a burning clarity, igniting her instincts and lighting the fury within her. But the relief was short-lived. She twisted in the water, eyes scanning for the tiny figure at the shore. Clara was standing there, grasping a frayed blanket, crying out, "Mommy!" Her small face was pale, lips trembling. Sarah's heart cracked at the sight. "Stay there," Sarah shouted, even as shadows danced around her, teasing, mocking. Her thoughts raced. What if she wasn't fast enough? What if the ocean still wanted her? She had to decide, and fast. But before she could swim back, that voice echoed again, soft yet menacing. "He's looking for you. He always has. But can you trust him?" "Who?" Sarah yelled into the churning waves, clenching her fists in frustration. A shadow flickered beneath her, darting like a ghost. She glimpsed a face, Blake. His figure was framed in the glow, desperate and rough-edged. But his expression held something deeper, a torment that sent chills down her spine. "Sarah!" he roared, desperation coursing through him as he reached for her. But just as his hand stretched out, the water surged around him. The sea clawed at his ankles, dragging him down into the dark. "No!" Sarah lunged, instinctively diving toward him, but it was too late. The ocean consumed what remained of the light, swallowing Blake whole, his anguished face disappearing beneath the waves. "Stop!" cried the voice, now hissing all around her. "You cannot save him." Fear morphed into something else, a raw desperation surging through Sarah's veins. With Blake's life hanging in the balance, she had to make a choice: follow the strange glow, and learn the secrets of the abyss, or risk losing everything she had left to save him. The water swirled ominously, coaxing her down even as Clara's cries echoed on the shore. Love and fear battled within her, the weight of two lives resting on the edge of her choice. "Save him!" the voice hissed again, resonating in the shadows. "But you will regret it." With her heart hammering in her chest, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the ocean's heartbeat harmonize with her own. She could feel it in her bones. The choice to dive deeper stirred a dreadful thrill within. What awaited her in that submerged world? Was the truth worth the price of a sacrifice? As the water glimmered and beckoned, she screamed into the depths, "I want to leave him." The last words echoed into the unknown, leaving her suspended between two realities, each choice promising either redemption or doom. What lay at the bottom? And could she truly escape the ocean's grasp after diving so deep? The world blurred as Sarah surged deeper, her lungs burning with the weight of the decisions that swirled in her mind like the currents around her. She could feel the call of the ocean, demanding her attention while offering secrets cloaked in darkness. Blake's face haunted her, a snapshot of despair that urged her forward. She had to save him even if it cost her everything. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat, guiding her through the murky depths. "Trust me," the voice echoed in her head, the warning threading through her thoughts. But trust felt heavy now, weighed down by choice. She clung to the hope of love, the love she held for Blake, for Clara. Just when fear seemed to grip her heart tighter than the water around her, a flicker caught her eye. The woman they had tried to save was there, suspended in time, and for a fleeting moment, her expression shifted. Was it understanding or sorrow? "You shouldn't have come," she whispered, the sound vibrating through the ocean. "Where is he?" Sarah gasped, the words rippling toward the surface of her mind. But the woman's gaze turned toward the darkness beyond her, the essence of despair enveloping them both. Then, in a wash of light and shadow, Sarah felt a surge within her. She reached out, fingers grazing the edge of the woman's ethereal presence. "Please, show me." It felt like a reciprocity of wills, a dance of grief and hope, and the woman's eyes flashed, revealing a strand of memory tangled beneath the waves. Images flooded into Sarah's mind, visions of lost souls, children playing under the sun, laughter echoing in the air, and finally, a flicker of rage that exploded into a storm. The ocean was alive, every wave resonating with stories, with pain that reached back centuries. Each secret waited, aching to be uncovered, but also fiercely protective of its depths. "Mommy!" Clara's voice rang through the chaos. A tether snapped within Sarah, pulling her back, reminding her of the promise she'd made. She had to return with renewed clarity igniting her spirit. Sarah focused on Blake, still slipping into the dark void. She turned toward the surface, summoning every ounce of strength. She yearned to see Clara's face, to feel the warmth of daylight after this chilling darkness. The woman's spectral form shimmered behind her, urging her forward and no more whispers or warnings. "Clara!" she cried, pushing against the tide, desperation fueling her every movement. The glow intensified, shining brighter, illuminating the way back to life as she broke the surface. The frantic gasps of air filled her lungs with the joy of survival. Sunlight wrapped around her like a safety blanket, but the pain of her heart surged anew. "Blake!" she shouted, forcing air into her lungs as she swiveled through the waves. Clara stood at the edge of the beach, little body trembling, watching fearfully as the chaos unfolded. The lifeguard surged past her towards the water, diving back in after Blake, but it felt like an eternity stretched out before her. But even in the distance, Sarah could see shadows among the waves. The lifeguards, brave and bold, reached for something below. "You can't give up," Clara shouted, her small voice piercing through the din. A beacon of hope in that moment. A swell lifted Blake's figure high, the determination on his face matching the strength that pulsed through the water. He was fighting, clawing his way back to the surface. Sarah felt the tears prickle her eyes, relief intertwining with disbelief. Would he make it? The crowd erupted in cheers as Blake finally broke free, gasping for air. But the edge of panic remained etched on his features as he looked for Clara, confusion swirling in his expression. Instinctively, she rushed to his side, swallowing the space between them, while lifting Clara into her arms. "We're all here," she reassured him, her heart weary yet buoyed by love. Clara dashed towards Blake, and they enveloped each other in a fierce embrace, the three of them united. The ocean, once formidable, fell silent, as the truth hung in the air, a revelation that felt significant yet somehow unnervingly small. They were safe, but the weight of the hidden story still lingered just below the surface. Sarah's thoughts drifted back to the woman in the waves, the untold truths that remained out of reach. There would always be questions, secrets woven into the fabric of the tides. But today love had triumphed over despair. "I need to find out what happened," Blake spoke slowly, his eyes mirroring her resolve, determination burning brightly. Clara nodded, her small face earnest with understanding. Together they would uncover the story, one hidden wave at a time. They had each fought for their lives and wrestled with shadows. Now they could face whatever lay ahead together. And as they stood on the shore, the ocean stretched out before them, a promise of adventures waiting to be unveiled. The beach filled with laughter once again, brighter than before, the sun shining down upon them. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling Clara's tiny hand in hers and Blake's proud smile radiating warmth. Everything felt possible again. This was their moment, and a new journey was just beginning. And as the sun began to set over the horizon, painting the sky with brilliant hues, a sense of peace settled in their hearts. So don't let this be the end, this is just the beginning of more incredible stories. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss any of our next exclusive tales. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. Remember, share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. Don't wait even one more second. Your engagement keeps the stories alive. Let us keep this adventure going together.